Hello and welcome back. I'm your host today, I'm Leilani, and we are joined by four fantastic people. We have
Isaiah.
Cassidy.
I'm Sam.
And I'm Thomas.
And on this episode of Cinema Sit Down, we watched the movie Tootsie, which we will discuss when we come back. All right, and we are back. So as I mentioned, today we watched Tootsie. It's a 1982 film, and it's about this man. His name is Michael Dorsey, and he's an actor who tries and auditions for multiple roles and doesn't make any of them. Some of them he just didn't fit, and then some of them he didn't choose to do because it kind of went against what he believed in. And I think that's one of the reasons that I really did like this film. Just because he really stood up for what he wanted to do, and he didn't really take like other people's, not that he didn't take into people's consideration, but he definitely wanted to add his own style to things. And since he didn't make it into, you know, those roles as a man, he dressed up as, behind us, Dorothy Michaels, who definitely was a woman that stood up for herself, and he would try to like teach other women to like stand up for themselves, and I think he really embodied what he wanted to like show others. And there were a lot of themes that kind of went throughout this that I just really enjoyed, so I wanted to share with everybody. What did you guys think of it?
Well, kind of like you mentioned, you know, Michael does kind of serve as like a role model, which I think was kind of a good part of the movie, where he is inspiring other people to just stand up for themselves. You know, it's like a good message in the fact that he's consistently put down for standing up for himself in this industry, and yet he just keeps on doing it. And, you know, at the very least, he's persistent in what he believes in. He kind of does stick to that moral of, I'm going to do it the way I want to. You're going to listen to what I have to say, and you got to respect him a little bit for that.
I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I was going to. As soon as he came dressed as a woman, I was like, this is going to be offensive and just like 80s things that wouldn't fly this day. Not that I think they would make this movie anymore,
Probably not.
but it was not as offensive as I thought it was going to be.
I completely agree.
Yeah, not too bad.
For
The
sure.
theme, standing up for yourself, that's obviously a good theme overall. It kind of developed into like a womanhood kind of thing, which was a little bit like sketch, because like obviously he's not actually a woman. But hey, we support all gender bending here. So overall, I enjoyed it.
Honestly, I feel like, I don't know if this movie would get made today, but if it did, it would probably have a very different ending, where he kind of does realize something about himself. He goes, maybe I'm not a man. Honestly, I think that would have been a much better
I was
ending to begin
expecting
with.
that to happen, I'm not going to lie. I probably shouldn't have, but I was like, because it seemed like for a minute that's where it was going, where he was like, no, but like I am a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He especially, there's a line, I forget exactly where it is, where he refers to himself as she. Like, he's not just playing a character at that point. He isn't fully embodying Dorothy, and he is Dorothy. And even at the end, where
method acting too far, I think.
even at the end, but I think it goes beyond method acting, because method acting is he's acting by being. I think it went beyond that, and it changed who he was to start with, at least a little bit.
I didn't know where it was gonna end. I'll be honest. I was sitting like, I don't know how far closer to the end, but I was sitting like, I don't know how they're gonna wrap this up.
No, I was also
I don't
wondering
know.
the same. Because if he came out and exposed himself, he was gonna like, well, they made it seem like he was gonna lose everything, and it was gonna be this big fraud thing.
I mean, he
And
kind
then
of did.
He did-ish, but then I guess he gained himself at the end.
Yeah.
I could kind of tell that it was getting to the point of wrapping up at the end. We get to the taking screenwriting plot point 2, where he gets to the point where everything just seems to be going completely wrong, and it's like, okay, well now the dad is coming on to him, the main doctor in the show that he's working on is coming on to him, and Julie to an extent is kind of like realizing that maybe she has feelings towards this person.
I thought she was gonna be gay.
I did too.
I did too.
I think
did
that's
too.
where it was going for a second.
She
Reeled in a
was
little.
basically being like, I like you, but I don't know how to feel about that.
She
I
even
think if you gave her some time to like come to terms with it, she'd probably come back and be like, huh.
Wait a second.
Because she even said at the end, she's like, I miss Dorothy.
She did say
And
that.
then he was like, Dorothy's still here. Like, I am Dorothy. And I'm like, okay.
also, did I miss? Maybe I misheard what it was, but didn't she also be like? She said something along the lines of like, I liked you better when you were in the other clothes, or something like that. She like made it clear that while she knows it's the same person, she liked him in the other coat of paint better. So honestly, I do think Julie is gay.
I think
That's
Julie
my-
a little bi-curious,
is a little
you could say.
bi-curious. But I want to know what happened with the other girl, because we kind of just
With
left her.
Sandy?
Yeah.
I feel bad for
I
Sandy.
do too.
Yeah.
I really feel bad
She
for
didn't
her.
deserve that.
She deserves so much better. Like, all we got was her reaction to Michael, like, I guess.
I feel like she
coming
was
out.
interesting. She just didn't have time to
She had
develop
time
as a
yeah,
character.
Yeah.
I mean, at the beginning, she seems like she's gonna be more vital to the plot. I feel
Yeah.
like I even thought she was gonna be the main character in those first beginning moments where she's interviewing for the job and all that, and then she's just kind of swept aside, just to be brought in, just to be like, oh, yeah, we're gonna bring some conflict in because he's cheating, all blah blah blah.
But I'm not gonna lie, I kind of forgot that they were supposed to be a thing on so many
They could have
occasions.
skipped that,
Well,
to be honest.
they were never supposed to be a thing. The only reason, here's the reason that, at least in my recollection, why they were a thing, because Michael gets caught he's going to try on some of Sandy's clothes to see if he would fit them or look good in them. And then he's caught just in his underwear. She like just got out of the shower. And he's just like,
Well,
which is worse? Wanting to get into a relationship with this person and using that as a cover-up, or being outed as I've been acting as Dorothy Michaels. And he chose the first route.
I don't think it was the best decision.
No.
I think if he
And-
just told her right then and there
Yes.
that she would have honestly helped him
I
and
think so
not
too.
made a big deal
the
about
conflict there is that he took her part. That was the part
That
that
is
she
right,
auditioned
yeah.
for.
Yeah.
And he took it.
He could have just, I guess, said that like he's been interested in cross-dressing or something.
it. Yeah.
I don't know how that would go over with her, but
Yeah.
That's true.
I don't know
Like-
the state of the 80s and how they thought about.
I'm pretty. I don't want to say I'm pretty sure on
community.
anything. I don't really know. I'm gonna
I
stop.
also am unsure.
I mean, we don't know. Like in that moment, he wouldn't have known, but later on, she does seem to be like pretty open-minded, and she's like, I just want the honesty from you.
I thought he
And
was
she
going to
was-
tell
I did
her
too.
right
Yeah.
then and
I'm
there.
upset
Yeah.
he
Yeah,
didn't.
I'm surprised. Like, didn't she ask like, "Are you gay?" Like,
Yeah,
she
she-
was
yeah.
like,
She
"If
was
you're
just-
gay, just tell me."
Yeah,
Exactly.
She was
And
like,
then,
no
so
biggie.
if you just said something like, "Hey, this is what's going on," I feel like she would have been upset for like maybe a day.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, "Okay, well, you're saving up money for our play or whatever." I think.
Yeah, I
think it
forgot
was-
that's what they were
I
doing.
forgot that plot point
Yeah.
too.
They didn't, even
100%.
they didn't even have the play at the end. They just
They
kind of
just-
implied
No.
that.
The
well,
sign was there.
The
Yeah.
sign was there. That's it though.
And I really thought when we saw the sign that what was going to happen was the dad, Julie's dad, was going to come support him.
That's what I
even
thought,
Though,
and then
then
they
they just
weren't
ended up
there.
in a bar, and I was very confused because I expected it to be like a theater of some kind, and no, they just ended up going to
Yeah.
a bar.
The ending was a little bit.
It felt rushed.
Yeah.
But
If
it felt long, so I can understand why they were like, we need to finish
Yeah,
this
yeah.
somehow.
If I had to rewrite this movie, I would change a couple of very important things. First of all, I would have Sandy know about Michael's plan pretty early on.
To cross dress.
Like about by the middle.
Yeah,
I
I
think
agree.
by midpoint, I think that's about the point where she finds out. But while
In
he
lesbians.
takes Sandy's role, he then helps Sandy get a spot on the show, end that plot point entirely. Then,
Yes.
towards the end, we have the revelation that Michael realizes a couple of things about himself, and he makes some actual life changes instead of just pretending to be this character. And then Julie also learns a couple things about herself, and they all live happily ever after as a group of platonic friends.
you wouldn't
'Cause
have
not
had
every-
them end up together.
I would want
Have
to
them end up together at the end.
But yeah,
I
okay.
low-key don't think they should have ended up together.
I agree.
Just because,
I
like,
think.
it's a little deceitful.
I know, that's something I was like,
I'm kind of surprised that she was like okay with it too by the end. Like
She was pretty
personally,
chill after, like, one combo.
Yeah.
She was like, okay, I think her biggest thing, because she was talking about how she, like, missed, like, Dorothy. and he was like, I need to learn how to act like Dorothy in like
Without the dress.
without
Yeah.
the dress. And I think as things, because like he knew things about her that like despite all that, like they still know each other.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't really lying much about his life, I don't think, from what I gathered anyways. I don't remember much. But I don't know, like he knew about like her kid and like the whole thing with like Roy and all this stuff. And so despite all of the things that she was upset about, like still a friend. And
I could also kind of see it from her point of view, the way that they set her character up of her saying, I've always wanted someone who's just like you, but I know that I can't have you, basically because of societal standards or personal development reasons.
Yeah.
And then her realizing, oh, you are this person, except you have a different coat of paint on you that is acceptable by
Yeah.
societal standards. That makes it okay. That, I think, is the reasoning. Whether or not I fully agree with it, I don't
And
really know.
she said she was tired of being, like, truly, she felt alone.
Right.
And so even if their beginning was a little rocky, I guess it's better than being alone.
I do think it's funny how he did exactly what she wanted.
And then she was like, no,
She
I
just
hate
threw a
it.
drink in his face. I don't know if they ever like came back to that, but
Wouldn't that have been like, how'd you know exactly?
like how? No, I feel like
I'm surprised she
why
didn't
wouldn't-
like have any suspicions.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I thought
no.
they
That's
were
what I
gonna.
thought. I thought they
yeah.
were gonna
That was
find out
gonna
like she was
happen.
gonna be like, how do you know that? I only told one person that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then they
exactly.
never did.
I-
So
I hate that trope in movies where character says super specific, especially in movies where someone is pretending to be someone else and they've gained the trust of the fake identity. And then the real person goes, oh well, this is how I'll reveal to them that I'm actually this other person too. Is I'll say the super specific thing that they told me and me only, like last night. And then if the other character acts completely differently than you would expect, that is kind of annoying, because if I told someone like, hey, I want exactly this, and then exactly that happened the next day, I'd go,
That's a little suspicious.
something seems off here. And I don't know if she would have necessarily connected the dots or if she would have had to connect the dots, but I think that at least a little bit suspicion probably would have been
I
more
thought when she came home from when he was babysitting her kid, I thought she was gonna say she got fired because she broke up with the director.
That's
I was
exactly what I was
100%
thinking.
positive that was gonna happen.
There's just so many plot holes, I feel, that I just wish got resolved, and I feel like it wouldn't be that difficult to resolve, but as we were mentioning, it was just going on for so long that I think they were
Yeah.
just trying to wrap it up, which I get, but I don't know, like you could have
there was a lot
changed-
of potential
yeah.
for like a good ending that felt better than this one did. Like it wasn't a bad ending by any means.
It feels
I
like an
think-
80s ending.
Feels like
Yeah, it really does.
If you
Yeah.
wanted it to feel fresh, you'd do all the things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But this is a movie that at the time people go, oh yes, this is how movies end.
Do you
so
think
this
It's
is how we end
probably
this
a
movie.
really like forward-thinking.
Yeah, I was
movie
gonna
for
say,
the
do you think in
time.
the 80s this movie was like
Probably.
that
I
movie?
was worried that it was
Maybe.
going to play a little bit the same way as like Mrs. Doubtfire, which has a relatively similar concept where you are acting as the opposite gender trying to, well, I'll say infiltrate, but you know what I mean. I just can't think of another term for it, into another person's life. But I guess in here, Michael doesn't do it to get to Julie. He doesn't get to anything. He strictly does it because he is just a good actor. He's a pretentious actor, an incredibly pretentious actor, but he is a pretty good actor. Because I was noticing that even in the scenes where he's acting as Michael, he is still a very good actor and a very convincing actor. I honestly do think that he's a pretty good actor just as a character. He just doesn't know how to work with people. And it wasn't until he started acting as Dorothy that people went, oh, well, when a man is trying to take control of the situation and doesn't want to listen to other people, well, that's old news. That's every man. But when a woman does it, and
Yeah.
then that allowed him to progress in his career. So that's kind of where I was like, I don't know if this is necessarily progressive or not, because it seems like the message should be really good, but also the motive behind it is kind of iffy.
Yeah, no, it's
so.
a little murky.
It's 80s.
It's not good, but it's not bad.
Right.
It's the 80s, I guess.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
the 80s.
For the time period, I feel like it was something that was definitely a little more groundbreaking because it's different.
Yeah.
Because I mean, in like throughout the 1900s is whenever they were like actually like starting all these different like whenever like the women's rights, like all these types of things, and especially even for like because there's like the brief like LGBT kind of concept, they're all kind of like not the most talked about things during the time, unlike how it is now. So, I don't know. I mean, the methods obviously of going through it was, but
Yeah, I feel like it does really. I just wish they went into more of Michael's mind during it. I feel like there's a lot of things that didn't interest me that they kept bringing in to the movie, and I just wish they went more into his mind. I just wanted to know how he was really thinking, that kind of internal conflict. And they bring it up a couple times where he's like, you know, I feel more like, what's her name? Dorothy than like myself and stuff like that. And I was just like, you know, capture on that, like go into this, and then they would just move on. And with the, you know, trans thing, they just never really touch into that, if that's how he's truly feeling or if this is just pure
I don't
acting.
think that was another thing, because like I don't think that like his whole like motive was for it to be more of like trans. It was just kind of, as he started it as a job, but like,
I mean, he said it himself, I needed the work.
yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that they would have gone into it more if this were a movie about him discovering that about himself, rather than a story about, oh, look at this guy, he decides to get work.
He's a cross-dresser.
Yeah, whoa, crazy concept, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And then it had, like I said, I think I mentioned earlier, and I think everyone has kind of agreed on, we expected a much more, like a much more offensive representation, and saying like, oh, look at this person who's clearly crazy. But no, like it actually validates a lot of the things that he does. It just doesn't validate them necessarily as, oh, he's feeling this way, he's doing it for this reason.
Well, yeah, I just kind of wish they would have acknowledged it a little bit more. And I feel like it was just kind of like there, but they never talked about it.
Right.
And I wish they would have just acknowledged it as, hey, which just kind of goes back, they don't really let you have this personal connection with Michael where you can understand what he's thinking. That could have answered some things that I was wondering about the movie.
I think they did a good job of developing like relationship, like Julie and Dorothy's relationship, which is why I think we all expected something more to happen with just the two of them outside of Michael, because of how much time we spent with the two of them. Like the whole trip to her dad's happened, which.
Do you think it was weird they were sleeping in the same bed? They're both like
A
adults,
little,
older.
I
would be
guess.
like, yeah, I'm good.
If there
I
wasn't
can
another
go in my own
room, then maybe. But it seemed like there
was a big
plenty.
house.
Yeah.
It was a big house.
It
I don't
definitely did not
understand.
feel like they needed to stay in the same room. And the reason that the dad gives is like, oh, you girls, you'll end up together no matter what I do, so I'll just put you in there. It's like, they're both
Makes
adult
you question
human
Julie as a
beings.
child.
She's a child.
Right.
It makes me question what Julie was up to as a kid. Like, if he already knows this.
She's bi-curious.
She's
This
bi-curious.
That
we
also
think.
makes me wonder, because like he did kind of like treat them like children, but then also the dad was kind of going after Dorothy. So
They also. Do you guys think that they intended it this way? To me, it seemed like Julie kind of knew that her dad would really like her, and that's why she invited.
I think she
Dorothy
did
to
know.
Didn't she tell Dorothy, like, when she was like, yeah, my dad like saw your first show and now he's a huge
Like, he's
fan.
a big fan, yeah.
He said, like, she said that to her.
I think it was a little going over his head
I
because
think he
he's
didn't really
never
realize
been
that it was
pursued
like
by a
gonna be
man.
that intense, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And then the
no.
next man stood outside of his house and sang to him, which I know he was not expecting.
I think Dorothy was kind of more like a motherly figure than anything, and that's why the scene where Michael leans in for the kiss was really like, I don't know, it just felt so gross to me, because it was like, you are a mother to her, you know, you're not like I know, it just felt like this weird thing where I really don't like Michael as a character. And he's such a manipulative person.
That's
I
fair.
mean,
And
we can't say he did not
just-
manipulate people.
He's
That was
a
like his
manipulator,
entire
and
thing.
and he's just like, he comes off as like really gross for just completely destroying like this relationship, I feel, with I'm forgetting her
Julie?
name, Julie, and just in that scene, it was like so hard to even watch, because it was just like completely shattering that trust, and it was just gross, and I just hated the ending of this movie. I did not want them to get together. And so, yeah, she came off as a motherly figure, and that's why she wanted you know, the dad to get it together. You know, there's all these shots where
I also think
she's
that
holding
Julie
a baby.
may have done that for her, not her own gain. That sounds wrong, but like, I think she, you know, grew up with, I don't know if it was without a mother figure.
Yeah, her mom like
But-
died.
Okay.
She said she was an orphan, I thought, at the beginning. And then she had a dad.
I don't remember that part actually.
But
She mentions something towards when they're at the house together and they're staying the night. She mentions how she doesn't remember much of her mom, but she does remember the wallpaper, which makes me think that the mom died when she was probably
Younger.
like sub 10 years old.
Yeah.
Like she died before she was a teenager, so she didn't really she had a mother at one point, but she kind of grew up and became her own person without her mother.
So like,
yeah, I think that's
that idea of like, I don't know, like you said, like, I think Julie just saw Dorothy as like a mother figure so much that, like you said, when it started to like get past that line, it felt really weird. So I don't know, but
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a bad movie.
No,
I
definitely
think
some
it was a
murky
great-
waters,
It
though.
was, you know, it was 80s. I feel like that's how a lot of
For
it
the
was.
80s, I feel like this is pretty
That was pretty good for
decent,
the 80s.
to be honest.
What
I
would
will
you
say.
guys rate it, especially knowing the time period?
Okay, so what's
5
our
out of 10.
scale?
Let's
Out
go
of
to
10?
10.
Out of
10.
10.
I will give this movie a 6 out of 10. I enjoyed the watch. I thought it was not what I was expecting, but would I watch it again? Probs not. And I love Jessica Lange, so extra points for her.
I think probably give it like a 5. There's a lot of stuff that just could have made it better, and if they had gone into that, my score would have increased. But there's just so much more that could have been said.
Okay. I think I'd probably give it around a 7, just because I like to understand like what they were thinking, even if it's not like the most like what I would personally think. I just like to see kind of like all the different sides of stuff because it is kind of different from our time period. But I think the way that it was done wasn't the worst.
I'll give it like a 5.5, just because I find it really hard to sit through long movies, and that was just, and also like from all the things that we talked about, like it kind of just, I don't know, it was good. I don't think I'd watch it again, and also I don't think I'd watch this on my own if I didn't find it, if you didn't like show it to us, because it's really long, and it's something that I'm like, it could be better, but I liked it. I laughed a few times, so 5.5.
I'm gonna give it for like a 7.5.
Wow.
Apparently the highest rating here. I honestly, going back from just the story elements, I really enjoyed some of the production side of things. The way that they have some of their shots is really nicely composed. I forgot to mention it earlier, but like the shot where it reveals that he's not only had this idea to become Dorothy, but it's just a shot of him walking in a crowd, and you're kind of left to determine, okay, which of these people is he now acting as?
Yeah.
So some of the ideas came across in camera really well, so that's why I'm going to give it a little bit higher than you guys. So
Okay. I think I
7.5.
like all of what you guys had to say about it. Definitely a good watch. But that was our take on Tootsie, and if you want to check it out, definitely recommend watching it, even if it's for a one-time thing. You heard what we all thought, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.